Hi students, in this video we're going to compare data sets again, but we're really going to focus on the measures of spread. In the previous video we talked about comparing data sets with the measures of center, and we discussed how you had to find the measures of spread in order to do that, and we also talked about some important things to know. So I'm putting this slide on again. This was in the previous video. The one that I really want to draw our attention to this time is variability. Again, variability or variance is the extent to which numbers in a set of data vary or differ from each other. So how different they are or how similar they are. But a high degree of variability would mean that they are very spread out, that the numbers are not close together. Low degree of variability would mean they're more consistent, that the numbers are closer together. And again, um, like we said in the previous video, in order to make any inferences or conclusions like we talked about over here, you have to calculate the measures of center and measures of spread. And sometimes that's a little more obvious than others. And sometimes you have to do, you got to do the calculations and actually work it out. So again, there's a previous video that will help you with the actual calculations. I'm going to have you pause your video here to do some of those calculations in this next example, and we'll talk about some comparisons here. So this table shows the amount of text messages that you and a friend sent in a week. So this is each day for a week, the amount of text messages that you sent. So I want you to pause the video. I want you to find the measures of spread for each of these data sets. So I want you to calculate the range, the interquartile range, and the mean absolute deviation for you, and then do the same thing for your friend. So pause, take a minute, and do those calculations. Welcome back. Hope that you were successful in your calculations. So I'm going to just go through the measures of spread for you, and then I'll do for your friend. So measures of spread for you for the range, I got 51. For the interquartile range, I got 24 and a half. And for the mean absolute deviation, I got 13.3. For your friend, the range was 7. Interquartile range, sorry, the range was 19. My apologies. The range was 19. The interquartile range was 7. And then the mean absolute deviation was 4.9. Just looking at this, just looking at the tables, this is another good example of you can kind of already tell that your friends is a little bit more consistent, a little bit more closer together. Your amount of text messages are pretty spread out. You have this 82 right here, which could be called an outlier. It's a lot different than all of the others. You got a lot of different, 30s, 40s. Here's a 60, here's an 80. So not as consistent. And I think that our numbers show that. Your range is bigger, the IQR is bigger, the mean absolute deviation is bigger. So hopefully some things that you're picking up on just by looking at it and then doing the calculations verifies it, justifies it for us. So same table, but now instead of just finding, let's actually compare the two. Which set of data has the higher degree of variability? Variability, again, we go back to the first slide, how numbers differ from each other, how they vary, how they differ. So all of these calculations would support that your text messages have the higher degree of variability. And again, I'm just going to put you, but if we were answering this in sentence form using complete sentences, you would say the data with the higher degree of variability are my text messages sent in a week because, and then you would use your calculations, because my range was higher than my friends. My interquartile range was higher than my friends. My mean absolute deviation was higher than my friends. Because all those numbers are higher, that means my data is more inconsistent, it's more spread out, which means it has a higher degree of variability. So measures of spread, again, show us the variability and how far the data is spread out. Tying back into our last lesson, those measures of spread also help us identify which measure of center best represents the data set, whether that's mean or median. And I hope that you remember, if the data is inconsistent, if there is a high degree of variability like this one would be, we would not use the mean as the best representation, we would use the median. For your friends' text messages, just to review again, all of these were consistent. IQR was fairly low, mean absolute deviation fairly low. So the mean would be a nice representation of this set of data. Hope that helps you, again, build on your knowledge of comparing data sets using measures of center and measures of spread. If you need some help or if you have questions, please feel free to email me. Have a great day.